A picture-perfect marriage, a successful husband, a devoted wife. It sounds like the beginning of a fairy tale, doesn't it? But sometimes, the most beautiful facades hide the darkest secrets. Today, we delving into a story that starts with I do and ends in a way no one could have ever imagined. It's a chilling reminder that love, when twisted by betrayal, can become the most dangerous weapon of all. They were the couple everyone envied, high school sweethearts who had built a life together from the ground up. He was a charismatic entrepreneur, his business thriving, and she was the supportive partner, the rock of their family. They had a beautiful home in a quiet, idyllic suburb, to wonderful children, and a social calendar filled with friends and community events. To the outside world, their life was flawless. But behind the closed doors of their sprawling home, cracks were beginning to show. It started subtly. Late nights at the office became more frequent. Business trips extended without explanation. There was a new distance between them, a coldness that hadn't been there before. She felt it in the way he'd avoid her gaze, in the quick, distracted answers to her questions. She tried to dismiss her growing unease as stress, the price of his success. She wanted to believe in the life they had built, in the man she had loved for more than half her life. Her suspicions, however, were a nagging whisper that soon grew into a roar. A forgotten receipt in a jacket pocket, a cryptic text message glimpsed over his shoulder, a friend's hesitant comment about seeing him somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. Each clue was a small cut, slowly bleeding the trust from their relationship. The fear was paralyzing. What if the life she cherished was all a lie? Driven by a desperate need for the truth, she began to dig. It didn't take long. The digital breadcrumbs he'd carelessly left behind led her straight to the affair. The other woman was younger, someone from his office. The discovery was devastating, a punch to the gut that left her breathless. The betrayal wasn't just an act of infidelity. It was a betrayal of their entire history, of the vows they had made, of the family they had created. The confrontation was explosive, the carefully constructed image of their perfect life shattered into a million pieces. There were screams, tears, and accusations. He didn't deny it. In fact, he seemed almost relieved that the secret was out. He promised it was a mistake, that he'd end it, that he loved her and only her. For the sake of their children, for the sake of the years they'd shared, she agreed to try and work through it. But forgiveness is a difficult road, and trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. The affair had unleashed a darkness within their home. The air was thick with resentment and suspicion. Every phone call, every late arrival, was a source of fresh conflict. The love that once defined them had curdled into a toxic mix of anger and pain. He grew more and more resentful of her scrutiny, and she became obsessed with his every move, terrified of being hurt again. Their friends noticed the change. The happy, vibrant couple was gone, replaced by two strangers living under the same roof, their interactions laced with tension. They put on a brave face at social gatherings, but the smiles never quite reached their eyes. The once warm home became a cold and silent battleground. One evening, the fighting reached a new, terrifying intensity. The argument started over something trivial, a missed dinner, but it quickly escalated, dredging up all the pain and betrayal of the past few months. The yelling was louder than ever, the words sharper, more cruel. Neighbors later reported hearing shouting, the sound of breaking glass, and then, an abrupt, chilling silence. The next morning, the community woke up to the unthinkable. Police cars and news vans swarmed the quiet suburban street, their flashing lights a stark contrast to the peaceful morning. The house with the perfectly manicured lawn was now cordoned off with yellow tape. Inside, investigators made a gruesome discovery. The successful entrepreneur, the man who seemed to have it all, was dead. The investigation quickly zeroed in on his wife. The history of the affair, the constant fighting, it all painted a compelling picture for the prosecution. They argued it was a crime of passion, the final, tragic act of a woman scorned, pushed to the edge by her husband's betrayal. Her defense team painted a different picture, that of a battered woman, not physically, but emotionally, who had been pushed to her breaking point and acted in self-defense during a violent altercation. The trial captivated the nation. It was a story that played on our deepest fears about love, trust, and the secrets people keep. Was she a cold, calculating killer who planned her revenge? Or was she a victim who finally snapped after months of emotional torment? Every piece of evidence was scrutinized, every testimony picked apart. Friends and family were forced to take sides, revealing intimate and often painful details about the couple's disintegrating marriage. The prosecution presented the affair as the motive. They detailed how her discovery of the infidelity led to a downward spiral of anger and obsession, culminating in a deliberate act of violence. They portrayed her as a woman who couldn't accept the end of her perfect life and chose murder over divorce. The defense, on the other hand, argued that the affair was just the beginning of a campaign of emotional and psychological abuse. They claimed he had become increasingly hostile and controlling after the affair was exposed, and on that final night, his rage had turned physical, forcing her to defend her own life. The central question for the jury was what truly happened in those final, frantic moments behind closed doors. In the end, the jury delivered their verdict. After days of deliberation, they found her guilty. The motive, they decided, was rage fueled by betrayal. The image of the grieving widow was replaced by that of a convicted murderer. She was sentenced to life in prison, the fairytale ending in the harshest of realities. This case serves as a dark and powerful cautionary tale. It shows how the deepest love can transform into the most intense hatred when broken by betrayal. The pressure to maintain a perfect image, the pain of infidelity, and the inability to communicate can create a perfect storm with devastating consequences. It forces us to ask uncomfortable questions about the nature of passion and the fine line between love and rage. What begins in love should never have to end in such tragedy. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into fascinating cases. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.